which tends to happen on what we call the right. And on the left, I think the erroneous piece is sometimes we essentialize. We sort of posterize. We sort of have like the Muslim, and we sort of think of all of our progressive values and apply them to our own Christian sometimes progressive values. That's happened to me as a Hispanic in a predominantly white denomination. I get posterized and essentialized, sort of called to speak for all Hispanic people, even though I have a very unique take on life. How do you personally respond to this? I mean, how do you navigate those two tendencies that tend to be thrust upon you? What are some of those misconceptions that you would like to kind of dispel?
I think there's more of a global issue when it comes to sort of stereotyping people, and I think personally, I think it's just an immature way of viewing the world and viewing people, and I think even saying that like even the way you pose the question, where some like putting Christians in groups like that, and how majority groups do certain things. We just tend to try to like put people in those boxes, right? And I think the more you learn, the more you meet with different people, and the more you travel and even coming to this and hearing from somebody who's different than you, the more you realize that each story is so unique. And part of combating stereotypes is just to, I think, tell your story. So partly I'm doing that by coming here, and also being open and sharing with people who it is that you are helps to dispel some of those stereotypes. And I think I view God as one supreme God, but who is capable of infinite possibilities. So when I'm always thinking about who God is, I tend to think of God in the infinity. And so I think about all the people, that every person here, we each have we have an infinitely unique fingerprint. So if we think about that, then we know that our own story is infinitely unique in that way. So yes, I'm Muslim, and I belong to this group of people who believe in this way, but I also come from a different place than other Muslims. I also, maybe I'm at I'm a different age, I have a different story, I've learned different things, all these kind of things that make up everybody's story, they're very unique. And I think there's a danger in assuming things of other people, and I think the more you mature and as you grow, and you realize, how really you can't really do that, and I think that really helps you, and really kind of stuns you into silence sometimes. And they say silence is wisdom, and I feel like wisdom is what creates silence, because you're just, stunned. I really can't say anything about any of you, just because you have some attribute that I might know about, So yeah, I think that's very important, to just kind of widen one's scope. And traveling helps, and just reading a lot, you learn different things. But I think two common misconceptions you asked about, I think the most common ones about Islam is that it's an inherently violent religion. That's very common. And the second one is that I think that women are oppressed. It's also very, very common misconception. And the violence thing, I think it stems from local and current politics, obviously from the political scene. But I think from anybody who has actually studied Islamic sources as a field of study, will realize that you just know it's incorrect. There's a consensus of scholars that the consensus is that violence is forbidden unless it's to defend yourself from wrong, in which case sometimes it's mandatory. And then the second one is, that women are inherently oppressed. And I would take it back to sort of the danger of just the story of women. I think some Muslim women may be oppressed, some may not be. Some American non-Muslim women may be oppressed, some may not be. It really just varies on every single situation. Some like families are oppressive and some are not, and I don't know if it's not really. I think oppression is one of those things that are non-religious. One of those like vices and ills in society. That just it's just like I don't know, like anything. But I think people may think that women are inherently oppressed because of the dress, but I don't think one would say that a man who dresses in robes or wears like anything on his head, nobody would think that that a man is oppressed. So I'm not sure, the connection with the dress. I think it's just sort of this Western idea that we don't oppress our women, and then to put it on other people that those people do that, but we don't. Which is a very easy way of scapegoating your own problems, I think, instead of looking internally and saying, we have our own issues. What are they?
No, that for me has been one of my grown edges, to see all the ways the mirror is held up when I speak with Muslims or somebody of another faith. Has been the way the mirror has been held up to me, and it's not that they've been holding it up. It's that in the interaction, I sort of come face to face with the fact that the United States has never elected a female head of state, but in Muslim majority countries it's now 16, something around there. 16 heads of state have been women, and so we see that we talk about the veil as oppression, but we never talk about nuns who wear veils as oppressive. We may say it's oppressive in other ways because of the patriarchy of the church, but we never pin the veil on a nun to a symbol of that person's. So I think it's that sort of what happens in those encounters is that you kind of become real with yourself in a way.
And I think we do that on a personal basis. We might have a problem, but then you just you project it on someone else, or you blame someone else. And I think it's a lot harder. It's so hard on your own like ego and your psyche to just say, I need to take authority over this problem and take care of it. I think that takes a lot of faith, to kind of see yourself from the outside, like holding up that mirror to yourself.
And being able to ask that. I remember when Dunian and I were planning this event, and I shared her those sort of two sort of general ways, marginalization and essentializing. I had to ask, am I essentializing you with this interview? That sort of awareness is something that we need to cultivate. Fortunately for Dunian, it was like, no, this is. I mean, it's here where my multiple, dimensional self is to show that. So. But it's that kind of awareness, though, that essentializing could just be easily as could blind us just as easily as marginalization.
I think so. But to allow somebody to speak and to show like all their, that their dimensions is really removes that essentialization, I think. And that's fine. I think sometimes to not to be too hard on ourselves. To realize that we're living in an imperfect world, but we're trying our best. And with our good intentions is, I think, all that anybody could ask.
Thank you for your generosity. Well, that last question was a negative question in the sense of what are the misconceptions. Let's turn that to a positive question. We Christians like to preach our faith, but we sometimes don't sit and listen. So now is your chance. What do you want to share to us, Christians in the room, which can't be essentialized because we don't agree with each other most of the time. But what do you want to share about your faith? What is it about your faith you want to share with us?
What I really wanted to share is something I think we never get to hear when we hear about Muslims in the news media, and that's that my faith is very personal, and it's something that I feel just helps me in my day-to-day. You know, it calms my fears, it calms my anxieties, it helps me to have a positive outlook on my future. It answers for me, you know, these sort of metaphysical questions, like where did I come from? You know, who was I before I was born? Where am I going? You know, I'm very fragile. You know, when I get sick, I feel like, you know, what's going to happen to me, you know, after I die? Facing those kind of tough questions. And I think, you know, I've always been somebody who likes to prepare early for everything. I mean, it's like sort of this nerd thing, but preparing early for my exams. You know, I never had an all-nighter. I just like to be prepared. So I think about that. I'm like, you know, that's how I am even when it comes to thinking about the end of my life. I'm like, you know what, I'm just trying to prepare. You know? And my family laughs at me, but you know, some people might pull all-nighters. You know, they might like get their illness and then they think about it. You know, but I'm like, I can't. I want to think about it as if it were now. And that kind of, I feel like that's why I feel like called to chaplaincy. And that's kind of, I find it strange, but I feel like, you know what, I want to kind of be around those people who remind me of really what is this life all about. Like, we can sit and debate politics and what's going on in other countries and this and that, but at the end of the day, don't we want to all live this like peaceful, happy life and just, you know, without anxieties, without worries, without, just to be like happy and calm. And I think, you know, my faith, like, it's always a work in progress, but I feel like that's really what it does for me, and it helps me in ways, you know, and I would feel like even from a young age, if I had anxieties or fears about, you know, other classmates or things, you know, I would feel like, you know what, I'm always have someone I'm turning to who I could talk to and sort of help me.